All right, you guys, in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about therapeutic yoga therapy. It's one of those areas in health and wellness, functional movement, an ancient tradition that I think a lot of people, I don't know if they know about it, but they might not know kind of what it looks like behind closed doors. So today, I take you through a couple of examples of the most impactful work that I've done with clients. I give some examples of who's seen me, why, the outcomes, and I go through what it looks like a little bit more of a day in the life of being a yoga therapist and what it actually looks like in my private practice, who I work with, what they come and see me for, and just give a little bit of the behind the scenes. So head on over to today's video and you can learn all things therapeutic yoga and what it looks like in the day in life. Welcome back to the Art in Yoga and Wellness podcast, you guys. All right, so today I have my headphones on I never wear my headphones. I'm just coming out of the gate with randomness for you guys. I never wear my headphones just because they're very big. They do feel like a football helmet. And so I never wear them unless I'm doing an interview. That's the only time. But today, there's all kinds of racket outside, downstairs. It sounds like somebody's sanding something aggressively. There's some construction going on out by our horse paddock. And so I can't hear myself think. So today, I feel like I'm talking very softly, like I'm the answering service on like some sort of hotline, like, hi, how can we help you today? But it's because I'm louder to myself, so I don't want to yell at you. So please disregard my awkward monotone today. My sound's a little bit different. If you're watching and you're like, wow, those are really massive headphones, Kira, they are. But the sound quality is great, and I can actually hear myself talk instead of hearing whatever machinery is going on outside. So here we are. Today on the podcast, I want to talk about yoga. I know I do a lot of different topics on the podcast because I really do try to make sure, I try to make sure that I hit a lot of different areas in health and wellness, but I also like to talk about things that I feel pulled to talk about. So I typically pick the topic a few days in advance. Sometimes I have a list of things that I want to talk about or ideas, but if I wake up that day and I'm just not feeling excited about it, then I don't do it. And I am pretty much back into being obsessively in love with yoga. And so that's what I want to talk about today. When I say I'm back in love with yoga, it's not that I'm ever not in love with yoga. It's just there's times where I'm not focusing maybe on that as much in my business. And when I say that, I mean, a lot of my clients have been with me for a really long time. And so there's a flow there. There's in a really good way, an effortlessness there. Whereas for the past 3 years or so, I've been doing a lot more continuing education and just research and fine tuning of behavior change and different forms of motivational interviewing and communication skills and things like that. And so it's not to say yoga's been on the back burner. It just hasn't been something that I've focused as much on continuing education wise. And again, I haven't really onboarded any new yoga clients for a few years because I have an established clientele. And so that flows really well. It feels really effortless. And lately, and I think a lot of it was just over the holidays, I had some time off. I was able to, spend a lot of time on my yoga mat for longer periods of time. And I was also able to not only just kind of reflect on the past year, I always do an evaluation of what clients we have, where they're at, who might be staying with us longer, who might be in a season where they're not going to work with me anymore, or maybe they're not going to work with me for a bit. And so because of that, I had this really great opportunity to, not only reflect on my own yoga practice and just where I'm at 37 with yoga, what I don't do anymore, what I still love doing, sometimes what I'm surprised that I love in my own body, sometimes different shapes I get in. And I'm like, oh my God, why haven't I done this in 4 months? This feels great. Sometimes when I'm on my yoga mat, there's things that I do where I realize, no, ma'am, retire. This is terrible. And so that's that with my personal reflections of yoga lately. But because I had to do a little bit of reflection and data collection on our clients and who we've got and who could we bring on, I had a really great opportunity to just rewind the tape and look at some highlight reels. And what I mean by highlight reels is I've worked with, I don't know at this point, we would have to go back in the system, but it is in the thousands of people that I've worked with specifically in yoga. And that might be anywhere from me guest teaching at a conference or a yoga festival where there's 100 people or 200 people. That might be just from when I taught group classes when I first got started. Also, for the past 7 years, I think I've only taught, maybe, I don't know if it's 6 or 7, A or B, it doesn't matter. I've only taught private sessions, so just one-on-one therapeutic yoga. And so I've seen so many people, and all of them have been important. All of them have been impactful in my career and my business, and also just me getting to do what I love. But there's definitely some clients that have stood out and that I think about still. And I think about our time together, and I think about the impact that a therapeutic yoga practice had on them and their wellness for a season, short or long. And so today, what I want to talk to you guys about is I want to give you some instances of where a yoga practice, where therapeutic yoga has been really impactful in certain clients' lives in a surprising way. I'm not going to give any names, age, details that would give away any of the client's information. Obviously, everybody that works with me is protected by HIPAA. Everything in the studio, even it down to an email, is always protected, and confidentiality and anonymity are always a priority. So I might change a few details just to make sure that nobody's like, oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. But the reason that I think that this could be helpful is hearing other people's stories sometimes give us some insight as to how things could help us, or just a better understanding of why it's helpful. And sometimes we just take that story or we take that example and we put it in the Rolodex in our brain. And then at a different time, whenever we hear somebody say something and we go, you know what, a few years ago, I heard that and it did not make sense, or it didn't feel like it was for me then. But right now, I'm really glad that I still have that information stashed, because I think that could help me, or I think that could be good for my child, or I think that coworker that's been struggling with this, I think that could be something that could change them, change their life. And so that's why I want to give you guys some examples today. And another reason I want to give you guys these examples is I often say on here, and I briefly talk about it on, not really on social media, but I've given examples. A lot of people are really, really afraid to embark or dip their toe in a therapeutic yoga practice or functional movement. I blend a lot of the two of them. There's so much overlap. And one reason for that is because on the yoga leggings advertisement that you see these really big shapes. And what I mean by that is these big back bends or the headstand. Same with on social media. You might look up yoga person and you're like, well, I can't go to Bali for 7 days and master that. And I also my body doesn't move like that. I'm hurting. I know I can't do that. And that's really disheartening, and I hate that, because it couldn't be farther from the truth of the reality of it. Somebody who's just doing gymnastics in a picture, and then we say it's yoga, doesn't mean that's what yoga has to offer, or it's all that yoga has to offer. So I'm going to talk about a couple of clients over the years, kind of cases, not really the client, where someone came to me and they said, this is going on, this is going on, this is going on. I don't know what else to do. My doctor said I should see you. And I said, okay. And what their goal was, where they were at, and where they ended up. And also kind of for me, what it's been like. So if you know me, I don't really have this is the certain population I work with in yoga. I know anybody in business and advertising will say you've got to have a client avatar. I don't really, just because I come from a Western medicine background. And if somebody walked into clinic, or if somebody was my patient, when I was a wound care nurse, I didn't get to go like, you know what, I've really niched down and I'm only working with 54-year-old females now that have this background. That's fine if people do that, but my brain has just never worked like that when I've thought about my clients and who I would work with, because as long as it's something within my expertise, as long as it's something within my educational realm, as long as it's something that the doctor has cleared and said, okay, and referred to me, and as long as the client's compliant and within an understanding of me being a good fit for them, you always have a right to say no to people, and I'm not going to work with you. But I work with a lot of different people. I work with people in their 20s. I've worked with people in their upper 70s before. I think one of my clients was like 81 when we ended our time together. I work with males and females. I do a pretty thorough screening. And at this point, if somebody's not a referral, I typically don't take them. So I have a good screening process. I don't work with pediatrics. That's not my specialty. I never ever worked in peds when I was in Western medicine either. So it's just not something, there's people better equipped to do that. I don't anymore, but I used to work with high schoolers, which I loved. I used to work with a lot of high school athletes. I don't anymore just because their schedules don't match mine. They can come after school and I cut my day off when my kids are out of school so I can do pickup and mom them. But all of that to say, I just wanted to paint a picture of, I see a lot of different clients and I have throughout the years. So one of the client examples that came to me of just one that was really impactful that I wanted to share with you guys, again, just to paint a picture of like, this is what yoga therapy looks like in real time. It's not what you see out there on the internet. It's this simple, but not easy, like I always say. So I had a client that was referred to me. This has been a few years back when I was still seeing a lot of yoga clients, when I was seeing like 30 clients a week, one-on-one. I don't anymore. Now I'm down to like 10 a week just because the season of life we're in. And so I had a client referred to me, and it was a family member or a relative of a client who had been with me for a really long time. And so the doctor had also referred to me. And when he came to me, the first thing I noticed was he was very, very unsure and very timid of movements in general. When I say of movements, I mean sitting down and getting up. And you could tell there was a very, very clear and obvious anticipation of pain. And what that will look like is facial grimacing, a tightening of the jaw. If you can't see in the mouth, but you can tell by different facial movements and shifts. If the tongue gets pressed to the roof of the mouth so the back teeth can clench. Shoulders will typically go up towards the ears a little bit more. The breath will start to get shallow and move a lot more towards the chest under the collarbone. So these are all things that I look at without even telling people. I'm looking at everything all the time. And so I noticed that. And so every new client does a history and physical with me, and we do an evaluation. And there's some, things that I'll have to ask people to do, just so I can see their body mechanics. And this client was just straight up scared to move, because this client had been in such severe pain cycles throughout their body. And when I say pain cycles, I mean aches, complaints, concerns. I mean muscle spasms. I mean the lot of it. Okay. And so I finally asked this client, and I could also tell this client was very, very skeptical of me, not my character or anything, but just they had seen a lot of people. They had seen a lot of different people all across the board in the health and wellness sphere. And they hadn't had anybody that had been able to get them to where they can move freely in their body. By no fault of their own, this is me not saying that I had some sort of magic wand that I waved. And so I basically just said, what do you hope that we can achieve in our time together? Why are you here? And he said to me, I'm now a grandfather, and I want to be able to get down in the floor and play with my grandchildren and open Christmas gifts this Christmas. And we were like 8 months out, probably a little bit more than 6 months out from Christmas, but not a full year. And I said, okay. I mean, I think that's really fair. And the reason it was so impactful for me, and the reason I was like, we're going to figure this out, is because there was zero vanity there. There was zero ego. It was tied to his values, which for his family meant everything to him. And he wanted to be able to do things with his body to show up for his family and show up for the next generation of his family and participate. And so we had a conversation, and I was like, okay, all right. At this time, this client no longer was able to golf. This client was not unloading the dishwasher, I don't think, because just bending down caused, one, so much anxiety because of the anticipation of pain, but also because they didn't know what their body was going to do. And so if you're wondering what happened, we did finally, within a few months, I had the client to where they could comfortably get down in the floor on all fours. They could do cat-cow. They could lay down on their back and do a series of stretches and different functional movement series. And that client, that Christmas, had a wonderful Christmas, got down in the floor, not only probably decorated a Christmas tree, but was able to get down in the floor with their grandkids. We never did a shoulder stand. We never did a handstand. We never did anything that any yoga advertisement or fitness brand would call me and go, you know what? We want to replicate that for our magazine. It wasn't sexy. It wasn't alluring. All it was sticking out the course, sticking to a plan, showing up, trusting me enough to go, here's where my expertise is, here's where it isn't. But I do feel like if you stick with me, and if you let me teach you these things, these movements, these breath patterns, these functional movements, I think that you will not feel worse in your body. And that's typically what I promise people. I can't say I had no guarantee I could get him in the floor for Christmas, but I did feel really confident. I was willing to bet a lot that he would not feel worse after our time together. That client no longer sees me because not all clients stay with me. Some clients have a goal, and once they meet it, they know how to do things on their own, and that's great. But that's one example of a client that I still think about to this day because they wanted something so simple. They wanted to just get in the floor and open Christmas gifts with their grandkids, but it wasn't easy. Okay. Another example / story, and this one, I debated even talking about this one because I wasn't sure, and I might not be able to get through it because it still stays with me. So I had a client who, again, was referred to me, and this client was in remission for cancer. This client was still on a low dose of chemo regularly, still checking in with their oncologist. There was a lot of discomfort and pain in the body just because of the wear and tear of not only just cancer treatments, but what the body had been through, being less mobile, being in the car a lot, just, going to the hospital, a lot of different things. This client was elderly, so I think in her 70s. And when I tell you, I have never met a more beautiful, soft-spoken but well-spoken, an elegant human being. I mean, this client, when they walked into my waiting room, it was, it was like, that's what Ralph Lauren, that's what Ralph Lauren had in mind when he was like, you know what, we're going to do effort, classic, polished, American style, because that was her. She was perfect in all of her ways and kind. I mean, I just can't say enough about her. So she was one of those people where it was like, how am I so lucky that this is my job, that I get to work with you every week? And I mean, just, I can't say enough. And so again, what are you here for? What do you hope that we can accomplish together? Because I want to make sure we're being really realistic here, and that I am able to get you where you want to be. And so one of her goals was, she described it to me, had this really big, beautiful garden tub in her bathroom. And she was like, I really miss soaking, but physically I just can't get in there anymore. And I have all of these fears about falling and slipping or not being able to get back out. And I was like, okay, all right. I think that's good. You know, it's always good to see where you want to go, like to have that ultimate vision, you know, because that way we have a target. We kind of know where our destination is. And so we worked on it. And we definitely had to pivot. You know, there were some weeks where her energy was down, and, you know, some weeks where we needed to focus on this instead, because that was the more kind of acute issue. But she got to where she was able to do that again. So a consistent yoga practice and the tools that we worked on together were not only equipped her and empowered her to be able to manage her pain cycles a bit differently, because she understood her breath, she knew how to utilize it, but she also was able to do something that she just missed in her daily life. Again, notice I never said a fancy pose. I never said, you know, we were able to get her to stand on her elbows. No, we were able to use a therapeutic movement practice, right? That's just traditional medicine, to get her back to something that she just missed. There's more to this story. So there was a point in time where there was just some things that were popping up that I know she was aware of too, obviously, because it was her life and her body. But I was going in my head, something feels like it's shifting. And when I say that, guys, when you've worked with, I worked in healthcare starting the day I turned 18, and then until my mid 20s, and then, you know, opened the studio and shifted gears to therapeutic yoga. I have seen so many people sick. Well, I have seen people die. When I was a nurse, I saw people die. You pick up on things. You feel a shift, you notice it when you see people all day long, and you watch this big and small things about how they move, how they breathe, what their body's doing. And something shifted. I saw it. And I even remember when I was with my acupuncturist, Chinese medicine doctor, who is also a great mentor of mine. And he's still around, and he's actually still in practice if anybody needs one. He's phenomenal. And I said, what do you do when you feel like there's something off, but it's outside of your scope? And he said, you keep utilizing the things that you know to treat what is within your scope, within your realm. And I was like, okay. So we keep doing what we're doing. And her cancer came back, and she decided, along with her family, and her husband was still alive as well, that she no longer wanted to treat it. She wanted to go into hospice care, and she wanted to be palliative care only. Palliative care is comfort measures only. So maintaining what quality of life you can when somebody has a terminal illness. And so I got a call. I was actually away at a family camp in North Carolina, and I had no cell service for 3 days. And when I turned my phone back on, I got an onslaught of messages. And my client's family said that she had a few weeks left, and she had requested for me to come and work with her to help with some comfort measures. And so we get home, and I change my clothes, and I get in the car and I start driving. And it was a drive. It wasn't in the same town I live in. And when I got there, and again, the most eloquent, kind, beautiful. I mean, I can't say enough about her inside and out. Mind, body, spirit, so beautiful. And I just got on the floor and I said, what do you feel like you want to do? And she just wanted to breathe and she wanted to move. And her entire, all of the females in her family were there. Everybody was just in community. Everybody wanted to be together. That's what she wanted. There was a very realistic understanding of what was happening. Nobody in that room was not aware of what the plan was. And that was to spend time with her and to make sure that they were together. And everyone in the room got down and participated, the entire family. And I think there was probably 15 people there, maybe more, I don't know. Or I don't remember. And we did the things that I knew brought her comfort. We did things that we used to do in the studio. And we did it like we would in the studio, and the whole family participated. And there was weeping and there was tears, and it was one of the most impactful moments in my career, because the fact that she wanted our time together to be something implemented towards the end of her life was an honor that I do not deserve. But that's also a testimony of a movement practice and being in your body and being realistic about where you're at in your body and doing what you can with the tools that you've learned. And that's therapeutic yoga. Again, it was beautiful. I don't want to say it was one of the most beautiful things, but it wasn't something that you would see in an advertisement. It was in the privacy of a home, and it was within a trusted relationship between a yoga therapist and a client, and so impactful. And I've never forgot it. I think about her all the time, and I think about her family. And again, just the honor that I had to be somebody that was a part of her, not only her treatment team and her wellness team before, she had made the decision that she had made to go into palliative care, but the fact that I got to be a part of the palliative care team. And so this is in no way, I know that was heavy, but our health and wellness is heavy, and the relationships that we have with our wellness support are heavy. And I wanted to give you guys these examples because I think so many times we think, well, I can't go to a Pilates class because this hurts, or I'm just not there yet, and I can't go lift at a gym. There are other options for movement, especially as you age, that will allow for you to stay connected to your mind, body, and spirit for the long haul. I've had clients in my studio before, guys, that I think 81's the oldest, but still showing up twice a week. And so there is a movement system for you that will connect you to your body, that will make you feel empowered, and that can drastically improve your quality of life. And maybe this message isn't directly for you, but maybe, again, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, maybe this message is for somebody that you love, or somebody that you haven't even met yet, that's just not where they want to be. And this conversation, a light bulb will go off, and you'll go, you know what have you thought of this? I know not a lot of people know about yoga therapy or functional movement. They think more of like yoga as being this like crazy gymnastic movement system, but there is the side of it that looks like this that maybe you should try. That's what I'm here for. Anybody will tell you, if you work with me and you're like, I want to learn how to do this and this and this, I'll go, why? And if you don't have a good reason why, then I'll go, I don't think you need that. I I don't see how that would be helpful. I'm very, very honest because I want people to thrive. I want people to be empowered. And I want everything that people do with me in my studio, whether or even on Zoom with yoga, I want it to be something that is really polished and put together in the studio, meaning I'm looking at you, I'm making sure there's an understanding. But if you can't take those principles and if you can't take those tools into your everyday life, if it doesn't allow you and equip you to open presents with your grandkids, if it doesn't allow for you to breathe and regulate your nervous system when your body is going through something, then what am I doing? If I'm just fluffing your ego for an hour and getting you into these weird shapes with your body that you're never going to do the rest of in any other instance in your life or your day, it just makes you feel fancy, then I just don't feel good about that. Other people might do that. That's not how I operate. That's not what we do in art and yoga and wellness. And so if you are someone who has wanted to feel more at home in your body, has wanted to connect your brain and your body, so your mindset and your body, and live in in one place at the same time, instead of feeling like you're all over the place, I would highly, highly recommend trying out a therapeutic yoga practice, which is very different than hot yoga. Nothing wrong with that, but there's all different ways to do things. And so as we wrap up, I want you to feel a little bit more informed. I want you to have also a little bit more insight about what I do, especially because if you listen every week or if it's your first time, we just spent, probably 30 minutes together. And because I don't post pictures of my clients, obviously, and because there's not any real evidence of what I do behind closed doors within my practice with people, I think sometimes people are a little bit confused. They don't really know what we're doing. And because yoga therapy, especially in the Western world, is such a newer field, down to our licensing and credentialing and programs, and there's master's programs now at different colleges. A lot of people just don't know, and that's okay. But that's what I'm here for, is to just inform you and give you information every week that you can maybe take and use somewhere, somehow in your life to improve it from a health and wellness standpoint. So if you have any questions about some of the things we went over today, let me know. Again, I changed a lot of information and instances in a couple of the examples that I gave just to honor the confidentiality that I have with my clients. But I wanted to share a couple of powerful examples because that's really the work that we do, a glimpse of it. There's hundreds and hundreds of other examples that I could give. If you're wanting to try out a therapeutic yoga practice, we have an entire library that I curated. I'm in all the videos. I'm the one leading you. And it is the closest thing that you can get to working with me one-on-one in my studio. It's videos for every single ache, complaint, concern, all the commonalities that I've seen over the past decade with clients that I've worked with. And I've made videos for each of those. You can access them through the membership, or you can buy the yoga library, or you can buy individual videos, but we'll put those in the show notes for this week so that you have access to those, or you can find them easily. You can always get a hold of me on my website, and rate, review, and share the podcast. That helps it grow and that helps other people find it. So until next time, you guys, I will see you later. Bye.